FHA is an international show, so we have, when things like the disruption that we've seen in the Middle East happen, it really does affect how people move around the planet. And so when you're thinking about 80,000 attendees, that's booking out every hotel in Singapore, that's every flight coming in, most of the people on those flights. My name's Indiana Forrest-Bisley. I'm the event director for FHA, which is Food and Hospitality Asia. The company that operates FHA is called Informa Markets, and it's the world's largest exhibition organizer. So we have the most shows in just about every industry profile you could think of. And yeah, I'm very proud to be the event director for FHA.
This year's FHA is a little special.
It is very special.
Why?
It's very special for a lot of reasons. The most poignant that everyone's talking about is the fact that we're returning to the mega show that we've been best known for. Because of COVID, the show had to change its format, and we disconnected two very important parts of the show, which was food and beverage, which is what it's probably best known for, and hospitality, which is the HoReCa, which is, to those that don't know, hotel, restaurant and cafe. So those two come back together. We also are really proud to bring back ProWine, which is a joint collaboration with Messe Düsseldorf, where we bring their brand into FHA, and it becomes the complete value chain of food, hospitality and wine. It's a lot of work. It's 2 years in the making, really, or even longer than that. I mean, we are very lucky that we have Singapore Expo as a really gigantic space to use, because it's the only one that can house everything that we offer. So yeah, I have a really big team, but also a really fantastic team. I give them all the medals for what we brought together, because there's so much legacy. They're so great at what they do. I'm really lucky to be working with them.
This year has also been a little different in that we've seen a fair amount of geopolitical unrest. Has that affected the show?
FHA is an international show, so we have every pocket of the globe, or continents rather, represented. And in that, when things like the disruption that we've seen in the Middle East happen, it really does affect how people move around the planet. And with a show like this, where we're about 45% international, and so when you're thinking about 80,000 attendees, that's booking out every hotel in Singapore, that's every flight coming in. Most of the people on those flights in the last week have been attendees or exhibitors, somewhat impacted by jet fuel pricing, or just having to move their routes to get into Singapore, which is usually a very connected part of the world. So it gave us a lot of nerves. I think I'm very thankful that it could have been worse. We have a very decent amount of Middle East product that's come in, and we're very thankful that 99% of that was still able to come. There's been some shipping disruptions though, some product that we would have loved here that was not able to get here because of changing shipping lanes and supply chains. But largely, I think we're very thankful that people still see FHA as really important, so they're willing to make the sacrifice in some areas, whether it's paying more for that flight or spending longer on a plane to get here.
I did talk to a few people who did tell me that they had to cancel and rebook flights just to make sure that they could get here.
Yeah.
Kind of highlights the importance of the show.
That's right, yeah, and we're really thankful to those people, because we put on the best of what we can, but there's a lot of people, especially our exhibiting group, that have to make really big plans to get here.
So this year you have both India and Europe, or I think the European Union.
Correct.
As the special exhibitors, so to speak. What exactly does that mean in terms of, I guess, the balance of power in the food world? Yeah,
it's an interesting question. I mean, thankfully, Europe has been a long-time supporter of FHA. This year they are, as you've noticed, the Region of Honor, which is the highest level of representation a country can have in this show. What it means is that they're really looking to connect with Asian buyers, and we do a lot for them. We've had a great night out with them at Universal Studios, where we take the buyers and the European Union to connect and really foster really good relationships. India, this is their first year, not first year of exhibiting, but we've had a collaboration with an organizer that hosts Indus Food, which is the best known F&B show for Asia Pacific in India. I think there's a lot to take from that in the global trade relationships. Yeah, the way that's moving now is probably moving a little bit differently than it did, even this time last year or 2 years ago. I think that's a great thing for this part of the world. It's signaling that people are open to trading with other partners they may not have. Asia's becoming a lot more important. Already was. We've got some really thriving economies around Singapore in this region. So when we look at countries like Indonesia, Vietnam and Philippines, and even our neighbours Malaysia, we're seeing a lot more openness from countries to trade. And even the European Union, a lot more free trade agreements are now being signed. And when it comes to F&B, it's the most paramount because it's the most amount of movement of anything around the world. So yeah, it's I think what it's signalling is a willingness to look to new relationships, and we're really happy that we can help foster that.
I'm sure you've had a little bit of time to go around. Has there been anything that you've seen that's really surprised you? Sometimes it's hard to get surprised when you do this year over year over year.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I'm quite fortunate. I've been in the role only just for 2 FHAs now. In fact, last year I was working with a great event director who I was replacing. She's still in the business, but in another portfolio. So a lot of it's new to me, but what is great is to see innovation, not only in technology. So we've got a future forward segment, which is bringing the world of hospitality alive through new technology. And that technology goes into hotels, restaurants, whether it's, a new robot, a new back of house kitchen software, any new innovation that helps that customer experience. That's been great to see. Look, there's a lot of new proteins as well. I mean, last year I was being fed crickets with some of my staff. It was really interesting to see where this year it's moved away from crickets, and I was being educated about snails in the Singapore pavilion yesterday. So it's always interesting to see what new culinary devices there are. But yeah, look, across the whole spectrum, there's new machinery in our HoReCa area that goes into all of the different hotels and restaurants around the world. There's new innovation in cocktails and in ProWine, there's new spirits. We've got a champagne lounge that we didn't have last time. There's a lot. One
of the more interesting things for me as an outsider to Singapore is I remember the 30 by 30 program from the government, where they were trying to achieve at least 30% self-sufficiency by 2030.
Yes.
That didn't quite work out, and now they have a bit more focus on growing a lot of local foods.
Yes.
Which I saw here. I saw quite a bit of initiatives here.
Absolutely. We're very well supported by the Singapore government through Enterprise Singapore, and we also get a lot of support from the Singapore Tourism Board. That's for a different reason and more about inbound visitors coming into both Singapore and FHA. But yeah, we have Kranji Countrywide Association, who has farmers, and you'll see fish and vegetables and, fruit and veg from Singapore, which is quite hard to find a lot of the time, but it's great to see them growing. They've been in the show every year since I think I've even been alive. I'm happy to say FHA is actually older than me. They've been long-time supporters for the show forever, and it's great to see that growing. The Singapore Pavilion, as we call it, has over 90 exhibitors in it alone, and that's a really great showing of trying to grow that self-sufficiency and having these great food manufacturers well supported through a program that helps them get into the show. But no, you're right. I'm not sure where it's at. It's in that 30%, but it's nice to see at FHA that we see it growing every year.
In terms of the food industry, for you, are there any trends that have really stood out this year compared to last year?
Oh, that's a great question. You mean food industries as a whole?
Yeah. In your experience in this space?
Yeah, it's tough to say. I mean, a lot of the product that we see every year that's strong comes back again. Meat is something that's always well sought after here, and we have great representation from countries like Australia. You'll see Uruguay, Belgium, some really great producers that are internationally well known. In the trend space, it's a tough one. I mean, definitely last year there was a very big focus on alternative proteins, and we talked about, the interesting ones in crickets, and I think a lot of people are looking to meat alternatives last year. I think I would see that maybe that was a bit more of a trend than something that was to be a staple. We have really great staples in this part of the world, of things like noodles, where there's a huge amount of noodles if you look for them, well represented in not only Singapore, but Malaysia has a really big amount of that product that stays year on year. But definitely I saw alternative protein come and go. It's still here, but probably a much lesser forum. This year, I'm not sure I can really pinpoint one. I mean, there's a lot more coming in sustainable.
I saw that.
Sustainability, which is really great to see. But that's ingrained in all of the food and the way that food is being sourced now. There is seafood sections where we're supported by the Singapore Seafood Association, CIAS, and they're doing quite a bit in sustainability and obviously sourcing for sustainable fishing and how that's done. Yeah, I think outside of that, a bit more in beverages as well. We see zero alcohols as well coming back. Even in the ProWine space, there's zeros. So yeah, there's a bit in trend. It's hard to pinpoint one. Yeah.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
Like I saw a much higher push for upcycling this time round compared to last year, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, you're right. I think that's taken more steam than it has in other years. I think it's an area that we want to grow, and next year we are looking into that and going further upstream. And what we can do there right from the start of the manufacturing process, and even before that, we're looking into the more raw foods and what we can do to grow that, so that we're really encompassing the entire ecosystem. Well, let's see. FHA always surprises me, and I think everyone that works on it, because right now we can see what the popular choices are and where that's being sourced from, but a year from now it can really change. I thought I was going to see halls of crickets and other proteins if I'm looking at it last year, but I can't find them this year, so it really does shift and change very quickly.
So over the last couple of days, have there been any, in your conversations with people, have there been any concerns or challenges that people are generally worried about in the industry?
Look, I think there are challenges in some landscapes. I mean, even in Singapore, I think it's been a tough year for the F&B industry, and I was lucky enough to be included on a hotel conversation with our great partners, the Singapore Hotel Association, known as SHA. And I think these are inflation concerns where people's ability to spend has been really damaged by inflation. And when we have crisis in the world, like we unfortunately do now, that does affect the bottom line. So I think we do see, not only in local markets, but also in Australia and some other neighbours throughout Southeast Asia, we're seeing some more restaurant closures and the hotel occupancy rates also be impacted because of these conflicts. So that's probably a bit of a concern for our audience, but it doesn't stop them. I mean, most of the people in this room are ingrained in these industries, and they've seen bad times before. We've all lived through COVID, and not only for this event very much that was impacted, these people couldn't move their world trade in the frequency that they were used to. So I think when we're in a time of instability, there are concerns there. But what the great thing is, there's still optimism, and there's, as we talked about, new relationships being formed. There's a silver lining to this, and it's great to see people using this format to take up on that.
I was quite pleasantly surprised by all the optimism. There was even a session that I attended, I think on the first day, on the opportunities that arise through global conflict.
That was
quite...
I'm really glad you attended that session, because that was myself and our great conference producer, Ting Wen, sat down, and she's laboured over that program. And we sat down and we said, what's really important to not only just the day-to-day attendees, but people on a broader spectrum. And everyone wants to know what it means now and who to trade with. And we have 78 international pavilions. In fact, 115 countries and regional partners are supported in some way or another here in a pavilion. And they all want to know who should I visit over these days and who haven't I talked to. And that's what times of instability bring. And it's been a big discussion point. Funnily enough, it was last year, because a certain someone in an Oval Office was changing the dynamics of the tariffs that were happening at the time. So, we were here a year ago as well, and for different reasons we're having similar conversations.
It's a circular
100%. Yeah, unfortunately it's all coming from the same place, but we'll get through it, and everyone out there is optimistic, which is good.
These are pretty exhaustive and exhausting shows. They're pretty expensive as well. So what is the impact shows like this have on the industry?
On the industry, Look, it's very exhausting. We have, from the smallest businesses who come over with their country pavilions, or even independent exhibitors who might even be someone who worked in a trade all their life and have decided to get into food manufacturing. For them, this can be their entire year's marketing budget. Thankfully, we feel like we've returned, something to them in at least a few lasting connections that they can make. But it's an expense. Not only just to set up your stand and pay your staff to be here and make it look interesting, and also have enough product on show. There's a cost behind all that, but the man hours to think about how am I going to, capture my audience, how am I going to look appealing, how am I going to set my booth. Yeah, exhausting is one way to put it. But I feel that the payback largely for this audience has been there. The main thing that we make sure of and that we labour over is that the return on investment is there, whether it be through an immediate deal, and we're really lucky we get stories every day, and even in our hosted buyers party where they leave this venue to go and network, they continue that, and then they continue it the weeks after. So there's definitely there's a physical toll, which might be represented in my voice right now, and the conversations that people are having day in, day out, there's an expense, but I am very optimistic that that's paid back. Hopefully very quickly. Some people it takes a bit longer, but we feel like the return is there. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you. That's all I had.